Man, week 2 here of Red Stinker Team. We're going to go through here about 10 minutes here. Last couple start sit questions. Who's going to be the top quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers? And then, of course, a couple of names to note today. We get started with Dak Prescott as top quarterback today. Very high-scoring game in Dallas against the Falcons today, I see. And Dak's got a lot of weapons out there. So I think Dak Prescott will end up being the top quarterback of this week. Running back, I think Derrick Henry is going to have the best day. Derrick Henry is going up against a very poor defense. He scored 16 fantasy points last week and had no touchdowns. He had 31 carries. I think he's going to get 30 carries again today. Jacksonville's defense is very, very poor. He's going to find the end zone. Derrick Henry is going to be your top running back for week 2. At wide receiver, Mike Evans today without Chris Godwin. I think Tampa Bay really gets it right today against a defense that gave up 34 points to the Las Vegas Raiders. You think Tom Brady's going to score a couple points today if the Raiders can score 34 points against the Panthers. So Mike Evans today, he's healthy. His hamstring is not on the injury report anymore. You're going to like Mike Evans. Go ahead and put him in your lineups. At tight end, Mark Andrews. I talked about him in Red Six Pack on Friday's episode. I really like him. I'm gonna go a different route today, but Mark Andrews is a name that if you can find him in daily forms, go ahead and get him in that lineup if you can pay up a little bit for tight ends there. The tight end I'm going with though today is Jared Cook. Michael Thomas is out today. I think Emmanuel Sanders gets a lot of run. I think Jared Cook gets a lot of run today. I'm not really worried about a lot of the others. I really see it to be Jared Cook, Emmanuel Sanders, Alvin Kamara catching passes today. So go with Jared Cook. If he's on your bench, go ahead and get him into your lineups today. I think he becomes your top tight end of week 2. The give me all of that game. It's the Cowboys and Falcons. The over-under here is 53.5 points. You're going to want as many players out of this game as possible. The Cowboys with Dak and Zeke and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. CeeDee Lamb showed up last week. Probably not putting him in my lineup quite yet, but you're really going to like all of your options there. On the Atlanta side, Matty Ice and Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones. Russell Gage had a great week last week. Again, I'm not quite starting him yet, but make sure he's on your radar. Hayden Hurst, another tight end. If you're streaming tight ends, he's a tight end to stream this week. I really like the game in Dallas this week. Dallas against Atlanta. Give me all of that. The game I don't like that game this week is the 49ers going across the country to the Jets. It's a long haul over there. The 49ers have a lot of injury concerns right now, and quite frankly, they don't need to do a whole lot to win the game. They're going to hand the ball off a lot. They're going to play a really great defense, and they're just going to try to get out of New York with a win. Over-under is 41.5 in this game. I don't know Jets players. I don't want anybody on the Jets in this game. San Francisco, you're definitely going to play Raheem. You're potentially going to play Raheem Mostert. Jimmy G, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, he's playable there, but not a lot of pass catchers right now. I just don't like many players out of this game. 49ers versus Jets, don't like that. You snooze, you lose. So let's get into the players here. You snooze, you lose. I'm going to Ronald Jones back in Tampa Bay. He's being started in just 47% of leagues right now. The Panthers gave up 3 touchdowns to Josh Jacobs last week. Last week, Ronald Jones he gave you 10 fantasy points. And so this week he's sitting on your bench. You're not quite ready to put him in there yet. I think the Buccaneers get it right today. Ronald Jones is going to score a touchdown. He had 17 carries. Give him some goal line carries today. Ronald Jones gets in the end zone. Ronald Jones, you snooze, you lose. Put him in your lineup. This week's hit it and quit it. Corey Davis, A.J. Brown's out today. Make sure that you're getting a little bit of Corey Davis, especially in daily leagues. If you're playing a daily fantasy today, make sure you get Corey Davis in there. Last week he gave you 17 fantasy points. I think he's going to have another good game today. Derrick Henry has the huge game today, in my opinion, but somebody's got to catch passes. Jonnu Smith will get some run today, but I think Corey Davis is a guy that you're probably not on your radar right now, but you can play him this week if you're in a pinch. Corey Davis, hit it and quit it. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Brandon Ayuk. I talked about San Francisco. I don't really want a lot of those guys, but this is a guy that is only rostered in 22% of ESPN leagues right now. He could be a decent daily fantasy play. I talked about him on the Red Six Pack. But who else is catching passes from Jimmy G right now? I think Brandon Ayuk can really come in his first game and solidify his place on this roster, solidify himself as a great pass-catching option for Jimmy G. I'm not starting him in season long today. But, again, the coulda, woulda, shoulda, as I talked about last week, this is a guy that is not on your roster, is probably available in your league, and after today's game, you're going to hope or wish that he was on your bench. So go get him, put him on your bench, see what happens today. Brandon Ayuk, San Francisco 49ers, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Today's fallback boy, I missed on this last week. I told you Kyler Murray last week. He had a great game. This week I'm going Melvin Gordon. You draft him in the 4th or 5th round. He's your 2nd or 3rd running back. You're feeling like you need to put him in your lineup. He had 15.5 fantasy points last week, so you liked that. But remember Saquon Barkley, 15 carries, just 6 yards last week against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I don't think Melvin Gordon comes out of here with just 6 rushing yards, but I definitely would try to avoid playing Melvin Gordon. He is our fallback boy this week. Now I want to kind of a runner-up fallback boy, Malcolm Brown. You just ran out and grabbed him. He was first on your waiver wire. You spent a bunch of money to get him if you're in your fab budget. But I'm going to avoid playing him this week against a Philadelphia Eagles defense. You're going to be hyped up. You saw what he did last week, but again, just try to avoid playing him this week. Melvin Gordon's our fallback boy, but Malcolm Brown's our runner-up. I'm going to add in a bold prediction this week. I kind of like it. You see it all over Twitter. Everybody's always like, what's your bold prediction? So I'm going to give you my bold prediction. My bold prediction this week is we see our first action from Tua this week. Fitz threw 3 interceptions last week. Coming out against the Bills, I bet he throws 2 interceptions or something like that in the first half of this week. And then Tua gets a little bit of run in the second half today. That's my bold prediction for week 2. All right, we'll finish up here. Last couple of minutes of start-sit questions from social media. DJ Moore or Terry McLaurin. If you can get both of these guys in your lineup, go ahead and get them both in your lineup. I don't know who else you're playing or why this is a start-sit question. I'm going to try to get both of them in my lineup. Both have top 10 potential today. I think they both have top 20 floors today. If I'm taking one over the other, I'm going to take DJ Moore. I think both of the teams, Washington and Carolina, are both going to play from behind, but I believe that Carolina plays from behind the entire game. They're going to be passing it a lot. Try to get some DJ Moore. DJ Moore over Terry McLaurin, but again, if you can get both of them in your lineup, you should get both of them in your lineup. Deontay Johnson, Antonio Gibson, or Adrian Peterson in a flex. I'm going Deontay Johnson. I talked about it a little bit on the podcast this week. He had a huge target share last week. He's going to fall into the end zone at some point. Be patient with him. Go ahead and put him back in your lineup, especially in this situation. Antonio Gibson, look, Raheem Mostert had a huge run against the Cardinals last week. Antonio Gibson could do that again this week, but I'm going to be patient on Antonio Gibson. I want to wait and see. Give it a couple weeks. I think he's going to pay off eventually, but just right now we're gonna sit and wait on Antonio Gibson. And I'm not big on Adrian Peterson at all. So Deontay Johnson in this situation. Tyler Lockett or Raheem Mostert. I just talked about Raheem Mostert having that big run last week. I'm going Tyler Lockett here, especially in PPR leagues. If it was a non-PPR league, I always take the running back. in that situation. But I told you earlier, San Francisco and New York, that's my don't like that game. I want to try to avoid it if all possible. And this situation is all possible because you have Tyler Lockett. So go ahead and put Tyler Lockett in as your flex. I don't think the New England defense is as good as what they looked last week. Remember, they played the Dolphins. So the Dolphins really made them look great. But Seattle, I don't think Seattle has any issues today. Tyler Lockett's going to get his normal run this week. Put Tyler Lockett in over Raheem Mostert. One more here, Nyheim Hines or David Montgomery. Really good question. I think both of these guys have a lower floor, maybe top 30 floor. And Nyheim Hines has big boom abilities here, but I'm going to go with David Montgomery this week. David Montgomery had 13 carries last week coming off of an injury. I think you're going to see a lot more David Montgomery this week. Hopefully he gets up into 20 to 25 carries. You're really going to like what you're going to get out of David Montgomery if he can stay healthy this season. They don't have anything else. They're not going to turn and let Mitchell Trubisky throw the ball all the time. So let's go ahead and put David Montgomery in over Nyheim Hines this week. I like Nyheim Hines. In this situation, if you have both of those guys, I'm going to put Montgomery in over Hines. So hear me out as I finish up here. Let's not overreact to week one. All right, there was a lot of guys, a lot of superstars that didn't have great games. Kenyon Drake, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans. We're going to stick with those guys. Put them back in your lineups this week. And then we're also not going to overreact to those late-round flyers. I talked about it a little bit in the podcast this week. Sammy Watkins, Russell Gage, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Alan Lazard. Those guys had great games last week, but we're not going to go throw them in our lineups this week just because they had one good game. Let's not overreact to week one. Let's be patient. Trust the guys that you drafted at the top end of your draft. You're going to have some injury situations this week, so make sure you're double-checking your lineups before the 12 o'clock kickoff happens. And remember, don't over-tinker.